Captain Marcus Reed stared at the display screen in front of him. The planet looked ordinary from space. Brown and green patches covered most of its surface, with white clouds drifting across blue oceans. It could have been Earth's distant cousin, but something felt wrong about it. "Any signals from down there, Lisa?" Marcus asked his pilot. Lisa Torres shook her head. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "Nothing, Captain. No radio waves, no energy signatures, no electromagnetic activity at all. It's completely silent." The ship Horizon's Edge moved slowly around the planet. Marcus had been exploring space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Every world with life sent out some kind of signal. Even primitive worlds had natural electromagnetic activity. This planet had nothing. "Maybe it's just a dead world," said David Kim from his engineering station. "The atmosphere of readings show it can support human life, but that doesn't mean anything lives there." Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her science console. "The biological scans are strange. I'm picking up plant life and what might be animal life, but the readings keep changing. One moment I see something, the next moment it's gone." Marcus rubbed his chin. Earth Command had sent them to survey this system for possible human colonies. They had already marked 3 planets as unsuitable. This 4th planet, officially called Kepler 442c, was their last hope in this system. "We're going down to take a look," Marcus decided. "Prepare the landing shuttle." An hour later, their small shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere. The world looked even more normal from up close. Forests covered rolling hills, and a wide river wound through valley below them. Birds flew between the trees, and small animals moved through the grass. "Looks peaceful enough," Lisa said as she piloted the shuttle toward a flat area near the river. They landed with a soft thump. Marcus checked his equipment one more time. Standard exploration gear, environmental suit, scanner, sample containers, and a sidearm he hoped he would never need to use. The 4 humans stepped out of their shuttle. The air smelled fresh and clean. A gentle breeze moved through the grass around them. It felt like paradise. "Spread out and start collecting samples," Marcus ordered. "They stay within sight of each other. Something about this place doesn't feel right." Amy knelt down and began taking soil samples. David set up his equipment to scan for minerals and energy sources. Lisa stayed near the shuttle, monitoring their communications and watching for any signs of danger. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. Amy found interesting plants and small insects. David's scans showed the planet had plenty of useful metals and minerals. The weather was perfect and the gravity felt comfortable. Then Amy noticed something odd. "Captain, come look at this." Marcus walked over to where Amy was examining a cluster of strange flowers. They were beautiful, with petals that seemed to change color in the light. "Watch this," Amy said. She reached out to touch one of the flowers. The moment her finger got close, all the flowers disappeared. Not wilted or fell apart, they simply vanished as if they had never been there. "What the hell?" Marcus stepped back. Amy moved her hand away. Slowly, the flowers reappeared, growing back in the exact same spots they had been before. "It's like they turn invisible," Amy whispered. "But how?" David heard them talking and came over with his scanner. "That's impossible. Plants can't just become invisible." "Scan this area," Marcus told him. David pointed his scanner at the flowers. The device showed normal plant life. Then Amy reached toward the flowers again, and they vanished. David's scanner now showed nothing but empty ground. "Anything I've ever seen," David said. "It's like they exist in one moment and don't exist in the next." Over the next few days, they discovered more strange things. Trees that seemed to move when no one was looking directly at them. Rocks that appeared in different places each morning. Animal tracks that led nowhere and seemed to start from nothing. "Not alone here," Marcus told his crew on their 3rd night. They sat around a small campfire near their shuttle. "Something is watching us." "You think there are intelligent beings here?" Lisa asked. "I'm sure of it, but they're hiding from us. The question is why." Amy looked nervous. "Maybe they're afraid of us. We might seem dangerous to them. Or maybe They're dangerous to us, David added. We should consider leaving. Marcus shook his head. Not yet. If there are intelligent beings here, we need to try to make contact. This could be the most important discovery in human history. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in his sleeping bag staring up at the stars. He had the feeling that hundreds of eyes were watching him. But whenever he looked around, he saw nothing but empty darkness. The next morning, they found footprints around their camp. The prints were roughly human-shaped, but longer and narrower. They formed a perfect circle around the shuttle, as if someone had walked around them all night. Definitely intelligent, Amy said, studying the prints. They were close enough to touch us while we slept. Why didn't they? Lisa wondered. If they wanted to hurt us, they had the perfect chance. Marcus knelt down and examined the footprints more closely. Maybe they're just curious, like we are. David was scanning the area with his equipment. Captain, you need to see this. I'm getting readings that don't make sense. Energy signatures that appear and disappear in patterns. It's almost like ... double quotes. Like what? Like a language? Like there. Trying to communicate with us through energy pulses? Marcus stood up and looked around the empty landscape. He knew they were being watched. He could feel it in his bones. Somewhere out there, invisible beings were studying them just as carefully. As the humans were trying to study the planet, "If you can understand us," Marcus said loudly to the empty air, "we mean you no harm. We're explorers from another world. We want to learn about you and your home." The wind rustled through the grass. A bird called from somewhere in the forest, but there was no other response. "Keep trying," Marcus told David. "If they're using energy to communicate, maybe we can figure out how to talk back." As the days passed, the signs became more obvious. Objects moved when no one was looking. New paths appeared in the forest overnight. The energy patterns David detected became more complex and frequent. The invisible watchers were getting bolder, and Marcus suspected that soon they would reveal themselves. On the 8th day, everything changed. Marcus was sitting by the river, cleaning his equipment, when the air in front of him began to shimmer. At first, he thought it was heat waves rising from the warm ground. Then the shimmering grew stronger, and slowly a figure began to appear. The being was tall and thin, with long arms and legs. Its skin had a pale blue color that seemed to change shades in the sunlight. Most striking were its large, dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom and deep sadness. Marcus tried to stay calm, but his heart was racing. "Lo," he said quietly. The being tilted its head, studying him. When it spoke, the words formed directly in Marcus's mind, rather than through his ears. "You are not like the others who came before. Others?" Marcus asked. "What others?" Before the being could answer, Lisa, David and Amy came running toward them. They had heard Marcus talking and came to investigate. When they saw the alien, they stopped in their tracks. "It's beautiful," Amy whispered. The being looked at each of them in turn. "You do not carry the mark of conquest. You do not seek to dominate. This is ... unusual. We're explorers," Marcus explained. "We come in peace. We want to learn about your world and your people." The alien was quiet for a long moment. Then it gestured toward the forest. "For come, there are others who wish to see you. But no, this we are called Kethmori, and we have hidden from the galaxy for many cycles of the sun. You are the first to find us who do not seek our destruction." Kethmori led them through the forest along paths that seemed to appear as they walked. Marcus realized that the entire landscape could be changed by these beings. They weren't just invisible, they could make their whole world invisible. After an hour of walking, they reached what looked like an empty clearing. The Kethmori raised its hand, and suddenly the air filled with shimmering light. Buildings began to appear, growing from the ground like plants. Streets formed beneath their feet. In moments, they were standing in the middle of a vast city that had been completely invisible. "This is incredible," David breathed. "How do you do this?" "We learned long ago that survival requires more than strength," their guide replied. "We learned to become one with our world, to hide in plain sight, to exist without existing." Hundreds of Kethmori began to appear in the streets around them. They came in all sizes, from children who barely reached Marcus's waist to elders who moved with careful dignity. All of them stared at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Their guide led them to the center of the city, where a large building rose from the ground. Inside, an elderly Kethmori waited for them. This one was different from the other staller. With silver markings on its blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. "I am Elder Neth," the being said, its mental voice carrying the weight of great age. "I speak for our people. Why have you come to our world?" Marcus stepped forward. "We're explorers from a planet called Earth. We're looking for new worlds where humans might live. We didn't know anyone was here. No one ever knows we are here," Elder Neth replied. "That is how we have survived for 800 years. Survived." "What?" Amy asked. Elder Neth's expression grew dark. "The Vorth Collective. They came to our region of space long ago, conquering world after world. They enslave entire species, strip planets of their resources, and leave nothing but death behind them." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Where are they now? Still out there, somewhere among the stars. They conquered 17 worlds, and our sector, we were next on their list. Elder Neth gestured around them. But when they arrived, they found nothing. No cities, no technology, no signs of intelligent life. We had learned to hide everything. You made your entire civilization invisible. David asked in amazement. More than invisible. We made it impossible to detect by any means they possessed. They stayed for months, scanning every inch of our world. They found nothing because we became nothing. Marcus was beginning to understand. You've been hiding ever since? For 8 centuries, we have lived in silence. No radio signals, no electromagnetic emissions, no trace of our technology that might attract their attention. We learned to live with nature instead of against it. We became masters of camouflage and concealment. But that's no way to live, Amy protested. Always hiding, always afraid. Don't you want to be free? Elder Neth's eyes grew even sadder. Freedom is a luxury we cannot afford. The Vorth Collective has ships that can destroy entire planets. They have weapons that can kill millions with a single shot. They have armies of enslaved soldiers from dozens of worlds. What could we do against such power? You could fight, Marcus said simply. The elder stared at him for a long moment. Fight. We are not warriors. We're farmers, artists, teachers. We build and create. We do not destroy. Neither did we originally, Marcus replied. Humans were once just farmers and builders too, but we learned to fight when we had to. We learned that sometimes you have to stand up to bullies, even when they're bigger than you. Elder Neth shook his head. You do not understand. The Vorth Collective is not just bigger than us. You're like a force of nature. You cannot fight a hurricane or stop an earthquake. You can only hide from it and hope it passes you by. That evening, the humans were given quarters in the hidden city. Marcus lay on a soft bed made from materials he didn't recognize, staring. At the ceiling, the Kethmori had shown them incredible technology buildings that could become invisible, energy sources that left no trace, transportation that moved without sound. But they used all of it only to hide. So sad, Amy said from the next room. They're like prisoners in their own world. Can you imagine? Lisa called from across the hall. 800 years of hiding. Entire generations who have never known freedom. David joined the conversation from his room. Their technology is amazing. If they used it for fighting instead of hiding, they might have a chance. Marcus sat up in bed. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe they don't need to choose between hiding and fighting. Maybe they can do both. The next morning, Marcus asked to speak with Elder Neth again. He found the elder in a garden where invisible plants grew in patterns that became visible only when touched. I have a question, Marcus said. When the Vorth Collective comes to a world, what do they expect to find? Resistance? Elder Neth replied. They expect armies to fight them, cities to defend themselves, governments to try to negotiate. They are prepared for conventional warfare. What if the resistance wasn't conventional? What if it was something they'd never seen before? Elder Neth looked at him curiously. What do you mean? Marcus smiled. I mean, what if you could fight without them ever seeing you coming? The warning came at dawn on the 15th day. Marcus was awakened by a sound he had never heard before, deep, a harmonic tone that seemed to come from the very ground beneath him. All around the hidden city, Kethmori were emerging from there. Homes, their faces filled with an ancient terror. Elder Neth appeared beside Marcus's dwelling, its form shimmering into visibility. They have come, he said, his mental voice heavy with despair. The Vorth Collective has returned. High above the planet, massive shapes blocked out the stars. Even from the ground, the enemy ships looked enormous dark metal constructs that stretched for miles across the sky. There were dozens of them, forming a blockade around the entire world. How did they find you? Marcus asked, his mind racing. Ship Elder Neth replied bitterly. When you entered our system, your engines left energy signatures that they must have detected. After 800 years of silence, we are discovered because of strangers from another world. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. They had doomed an entire civilization simply by existing. But there was no time for guilt now. What will they do? They will scan every inch of this world until they find us? Their technology has improved over the centuries. I do not know if our hiding will be enough this time. Lisa, David, and Amy joined them, all looking up at the threatening shapes in the sky. More ships were arriving every hour until the entire sky was filled with dark metal. We have to get back to our shuttle, Lisa said. Maybe we can escape and warn Earth. There is no escape, Elder Neth told them. They have surrounded the planet. Nothing can leave. David was scanning the sky with his portable equipment. Captain, these ships are massive, reading energy signatures that are off the charts. Whatever weapons they have, they could probably crack this planet in half. Amy grabbed Marcus's arm. You have to do something. We can't just let them find the Kethmori. What can we do? Marcus asked. We're 4 humans with basic exploration equipment against an entire fleet. That's when Elder Neth turned to look at him with those ancient, wise eyes. You spoke of fighting without being seen. Did you mean those words, or were they merely sounds? Marcus stared back at him. I meant them, but I don't know if it's possible. Show me, Elder, Neth demanded. Show me how humans fight when they cannot win. Over the next several hours, as the Vorth scanning operations began in earnest, Marcus and his crew worked with Elder Neth and several other Kethmori leaders. The humans shared everything they knew about guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and asymmetric combat. The key is never to fight them on their terms, Marcus explained, as they gathered in an underground chamber that was completely invisible. From the surface, you don't meet their strength with strength, you use their strength against them. David had connected his equipment to Kethmori technology, creating hybrid systems that neither species could have built alone. Look at this, he said excitedly. Your invisibility technology combined with our targeting systems? We could strike at their ships, and they'd never know where the attack came from. But we have no weapons that could damage their vessels, protested. A younger Kethmori leader named Vel.Amy had been studying Kethmori biology and technology for days. You don't need traditional weapons. Your people can manipulate energy fields, right? What if you could disrupt their ship systems from the inside? Inside? Elder Neth asked. How would we get inside their ships? Lisa smiled grimly. The same way you've been hiding from them for 800 years? You become invisible, get close to their ships, and then become visible right where you can do the most damage. The plan that emerged was audacious and terrifying. Would use their natural abilities to become completely undetectable. They would approach the Vorth ships using their invisibility and their mastery of energy manipulation. Once inside the enemy vessels, they would sabotage critical systems and escape before anyone knew they had been there. It's never been done. Before, Elder Neth admitted, we have always used our abilities to hide and avoid, never to attack. That's exactly why it might work, Marcus replied. They won't expect it because no one has ever done it before. But before they could implement their plan, the Vorth found them. It happened without warning. One moment the city was invisible and safe. The next moment, brilliant spotlights were cutting through the air above them. The scanning beams were too powerful for even Kethmori technology to deflect. They have found us, Elder Neth said, his mental voice filled with defeat. It is over. Massive shapes began descending from the Skyvorth landing craft, each one larger than a city block, the air filled with the sound of engines and the crackling of energy weapons. Marcus watched the enemy ships approaching, felt something change inside him. He thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of fighting against impossible odds. He thought about the Kethmori children he had seen in the city and how they had lived their entire lives in fear. "No," he said firmly, "it's not over. It's just beginning." He turned to Elder Neth. "Can your people still use their abilities? Even when the enemy knows you're here?" "Yes, but what good will it do? They can see our city now." "They can see one city," Marcus corrected him, "but they don't know how many more you have. They don't know how many of your people there are. They certainly don't know that you're about to fight back." The first fourth landing craft touched down just outside the city perimeter. Massive doors opened, and armored figures began pouring out. They were huge, easily twice the size of humans, covered in dark metal armor and carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. "So, that's what they look like," Amy whispered. Watching from their concealed position, the Vorth soldiers moved with mechanical precision, forming perfect lines as they advanced toward the city. There were hundreds of them, all identical in their armor and movements. "They're not just conquerors," David realized. "They're a machine. They do everything the same way every time." Marcus nodded, which means they can't adapt when something unexpected happens. Elder Neth was communicating mentally with Kethmori throughout the city. "Our people are ready," he reported. "But are you certain this will work?" Marcus checked his sidearm and looked at his crew. Lisa had a determined expression he recognized. From their most dangerous missions, David was calm and focused, already calculating angles and probabilities. Amy looked scared but resolute. "I'm not certain at all," Marcus admitted. "But I know one thing for sure. If we're going down, we're taking some of them with us." The Vorth forces reached the edge of the city and stopped. A figure larger than the others stepped forward and raised what looked like a communication device. "Inhabitants of this world," a mechanical voice echoed across the city. "You will surrender immediately. Resistance is futile. You will be processed." For integration into the collective, Elder Neth started to step forward, but Marcus caught his arm. "Wait," he whispered. "Let me answer them." Marcus walked out into the open where all the Vorth soldiers could see him. He looked up at their massive forms and their deadly weapons, and he smiled. "You want to process us?" he called out loudly. "Come and try." The Vorth commander tilted its armored head, as if confused by this response. Conquest. No one had ever dared to challenge them so directly. "You will comply," the mechanical voice repeated. "Resistance brings only death." Marcus's smile grew wider. "Good thing we're not planning to resist. We're planning to win." That's when the first invisible Kethmori strike teams reached the Vorth landing craft and began tearing them apart from the inside. The first Vorth landing craft exploded without warning. One moment it was sitting on the ground like a metal mountain. The next moment flames were shooting out of its sides and smoke was pouring from every opening. The Vorth soldiers spun around. In confusion, their weapons raised, but with no target to shoot at. More explosions followed. All around the perimeter of the city, the massive enemy ships began falling apart from the inside. Engines died, weapon systems failed, and communication. Arrays sparked and went dark. "Impossible," the Vorth commander said, its mechanical voice now carrying a note of uncertainty. "Port status of all vessels." But there was no response. The invisible Kethmori strike teams had done their work perfectly. Years of hiding and concealment had made them masters of moving unseen. And now they used those skills for attack instead of defense. Marcus watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. "Phase 1 complete," he said to Elder Neth. "Now comes the hard part." The Vorth soldiers were regrouping, forming defensive circles and scanning the air with energy detectors. They were trained for this kind of situation, but they had never faced an enemy they couldn't see. "All units maintain formation," the commander ordered. "Unknown hostiles are using stealth technology. Switch to thermal and electromagnetic scanning." David had predicted this response. Here they come with the advanced scanners, he warned. Through his communication device. Time for Phase 2. The Kethmori had spent days preparing for this moment. They had learned to mask not just their visual appearance, but their heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions as well. When the Vorth scanners swept the area, they found nothing. But Marcus had taught them something else. How to use the enemy's own tactics against them. Now Elder Neth commanded. All around the Vorth forces, the ground began to shimmer. Dozens of fake Kethmori appeared, running in different directions and firing energy weapons. The projections looked completely real. But they were nothing more than light and energy manipulation. The Vorth soldiers immediately opened fire, their powerful weapons tearing apart trees and rocks as they tried to hit the false targets. Every time they destroyed one projection, 2 more appeared somewhere else. Decoy tactics, the Vorth commander realized. Ignore the phantoms. Focus on finding the real enemies. That's when the real Kethmori struck. While the Vorth were distracted by the false targets, invisible warriors moved among them like ghosts. They didn't try to fight the heavily armored soldiers directly. Instead, they sabotaged weapons, disabled armor systems, and created confusion in the enemy ranks. A Vorth soldier would raise his weapon to fire, only to discover it no longer worked. Another would try to communicate with his commander, but find his radio dead. Equipment failures spread through the enemy forces like a plague. "This is brilliant," Amy whispered as she watched from their hidden position. But they're not fighting the soldiers. They're fighting their technology. Lisa was monitoring communications from the Vorth fleet in orbit. The ships up there are getting worried. They're asking for status reports and not getting answers. "That's the idea," Marcus replied. "Make them think something's gone seriously." Wrong down here. The Vorth commander was growing desperate. His forces were being systematically disabled by an enemy he couldn't see, couldn't track, and couldn't fight. This had never happened before in 800 years of conquest. "Orbital bombardment protocol," he finally ordered. "Destroy this entire area." Marcus had been waiting for this decision. "Elder Neth, are your people ready for the next phase?" "They are prepared," the elder replied grimly. What happened next would have been impossible for either humans or Kethmori alone. But together, they had created something unprecedented. As the orbital bombardment began, massive energy beams lanced, down from the Vorth ships in space. The beams were designed to level entire cities and leave nothing but smoking craters. But instead of hitting the ground, the energy beams struck invisible barriers and scattered in all directions. The Kethmori had learned to create energy shields that were themselves invisible. The bombardment that should have destroyed everything instead lit up the sky like fireworks. More than that, scattered energy was being collected and redirected. David's modifications to Kethmori technology allowed them to capture the bombardment energy and turn it into power for their own systems. "They're using our own weapons to make themselves stronger," the Vorth commander said in disbelief. From orbit, the fleet commander was equally confused. "Ground forces, report your status immediately." "We are under attack by unknown forces," came the reply. "They appear to have technology we have never encountered. Request immediate reinforcements." Reinforcements? The fleet commander had never heard such a request. The Vorth collective had conquered hundreds of worlds. It never needed reinforcements. For a single planet, Marcus smiled as he listened to the enemy communications. "They're off balance now. Time for the final phase." What the Vorth didn't realize was that the entire battle had been carefully planned to send a specific message. Every move the humans in Kethmori had made was designed to create maximum confusion and fear among the enemy forces. The Vorth were used to quick, decisive victories. They would arrive at a world, demonstrate their superior firepower, and watch the local populations surrender in terror. But this planet was fighting back in ways they had never seen before. Instead of armies meeting them in open battle, invisible forces were destroying their equipment and turning their own weapons against them, instead of governments trying to negotiate. There was only defiant laughter from a single human who seemed to find the entire situation amusing. The psychological effect was devastating. For the first time in centuries, the Vorth were facing something they didn't understand and couldn't control. "Sir," one of the ground commanders reported, We are losing equipment faster than we can replace it. The enemy appears to have unlimited numbers and superior technology. Neither of these things was true, but that's how it appeared to the confused Vorth forces. The invisible Kethmori moved so quickly and efficiently that it seemed like there were thousands of them. Their energy manipulation abilities seemed like advanced technology because the Vorth had never encountered anything like it. Withdraw. 2 secondary positions, the fleet commander finally ordered. Establish a defensive perimeter and await further instructions. Marcus watched the Vorth forces retreating and felt a surge of hope. It's working. They're actually pulling back. Elder Neth was more cautious. This is only the beginning. They will call for more ships, more soldiers. Eventually, they will bring enough force to overwhelm us no matter what we do. Maybe, Marcus agreed. But by then, word will have spread. Other worlds will know that the Vorth can be fought, that they can be confused, frustrated, and defeated.
Amy
Had been monitoring communication frequencies and picked up something interesting. Captain, I'm detecting transmissions leaving this system. The Vorth are sending reports to their commanders. What kind of reports? David asked. Amy listened carefully to the encrypted signals. They're describing this planet as a major threat. They're requesting a full battle. Fleet to deal with what they're calling unknown hostile technology and impossible resistance tactics. Marcus felt a cold chill run down his spine. They had wanted to make the Vorth take notice, but maybe they had been too successful. How big is a full battle fleet? He asked Elder Neth. The ancient alien's expression was grim. Large enough to crack planets. Large enough to burn the surface of this world until nothing remains but ash. Then we'd better be ready for them, Marcus said simply. Because they're coming. The Vorth battle fleet arrived 2 weeks later. It was larger than anything Marcus had ever imagined. Hundreds of massive warships filled the space around the planet. Each one was the size of a city, bristling with weapons that could destroy. Countenance. The fleet commander had brought enough firepower to reduce the entire world to rubble. This is Admiral Crix of the Vorth Collective, a harsh voice announced across all communication frequencies. The planet below will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. You have 1 hour to comply. Marcus stood on a hilltop overlooking the hidden city, watching the dark shapes that blocked out the stars. Beside him, Elder Neth and the other Kethmori leaders waited for his response. Well, Elder Neth asked quietly, do we surrender? Marcus thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of fighting impossible odds. He thought about the Kethmori children who had spent their entire lives hiding in fear. He thought about all the other worlds that might face this same choice in the future. Send a message to the Admiral, Marcus said finally. What message? Elder Neth asked. Marcus smiled grimly. Tell him we decline his offer, the response from Admiral Crix was immediate and terrifying. Then you will all die. Begin planetary bombardment. Leave nothing alive. But the bombardment never came. Instead, something unprecedented happened. All across the galaxy, on dozens of worlds that had been enslaved by the Vorth Collective, rebellion began. The news of the silent planet's resistance had spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Slaves on mining worlds heard whispered stories of invisible warriors who could make entire fleets disappear. Conquered peoples shared rumors of a small planet that had made the mighty Vorth retreat in confusion. Sir, a panicked voice reported to Admiral Crix, we're receiving distress calls from 7 different sectors. Slave uprisings on Terminus Prime, sabotage on the mining stations, armed rebellion on New Caldera. Impossible, the Admiral replied. Deploy suppression fleets immediately. Sir, we don't have enough ships. The uprisings are happening simultaneously across our entire territory. Marcus had not planned this. None of them had. But the sight of the Vorth Collective's first defeat had lit a spark that was now spreading like wildfire across the galaxy, down on the planet's surface. The Kethmori were amazed by what they were hearing on the communication channels. Other worlds are fighting, Elder Neth said in wonder. After centuries of slavery, they are finally fighting back. That's what hope does, Amy explained. day. It spreads. Once people see that the impossible is possible, they start trying impossible things themselves. Admiral Crix was facing a nightmare scenario. Superiors were demanding that he crush the rebellion on this insignificant planet while simultaneously dealing with uprisings across dozens of worlds. But every ship he sent to deal with other problems left him weaker here. David had been monitoring the Vorth communications and noticed something important. Captain, their fleet is getting smaller. They're pulling ships away to deal with problems in other systems. How many ships do they have left? Marcus asked. About half of what they started with? Still more than enough to destroy us, but not as overwhelming as before. That's when Elder Neth made a decision that surprised everyone. He will not hide. Any more? He announced to his people. For 800 years we have lived in shadows and silence. Today, we step into the light. All across the planet, Kethmori cities began appearing as their inhabitants chose to become visible. It's not just the one city the Vorth had found, but dozens of them, covering entire continents. The planet that had seemed empty was revealed to be home to millions of intelligent beings. But more than that, the cities themselves were weapons. The Kethmori had spent centuries learning to manipulate energy on a planetary scale. Every building, every street, every structure was part of a vast network that could channel and redirect power. When they chose to reveal themselves, they also revealed technology that was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. By the void, Admiral Crix whispered as his scanners showed him the truth. This entire planet is a fortress. Beams of pure energy began lancing upward from the surface. But these weren't random attacks, they were precisely targeted strikes that hit the Vorth. Ships in their weakest points. Shields that had never been penetrated before collapsed under the assault. Weapon systems that had conquered hundreds of worlds were torn apart like paper. The Kethmori weren't just fighting back. They were demonstrating that they had always possessed the power to resist. They had simply chosen not to use it. Sir, we're losing ships, a panicked voice reported to Admiral Crix. Their weapons are unlike anything in our databases. Shields are ineffective. Armor is being penetrated with ease. Retreat to maximum orbital distance, the Admiral ordered. Prepare for tactical nuclear bombardment. But even that desperation move failed. The energy beams from the planet reached out across space and destroyed the nuclear weapons before they could be launched. The Kethmori had turned their entire world into a weapon that could strike anywhere within their solar system. Lisa was monitoring communications from across the galaxy and heard something that made her laugh with joy. Captain, you need to hear this. The rebellion is spreading faster than the Vorth can respond to it. They're reporting uprisings on over 50 worlds now. 50 worlds? Marcus couldn't believe it, and counting. Every hour, more systems are joining the fight. The Vorth are being forced to retreat from positions they've held for centuries. Admiral Crix was receiving similar reports, and he was beginning to understand the scope of the disaster. This single planet had somehow managed to coordinate a galaxy-wide rebellion. Worlds that had never communicated with each other were all rising up at the same moment. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the planetary surface. They want to speak with you directly. Put it through, the Admiral ordered. Marcus's voice came through clearly across the space between the planet and the fleet. Admiral Crix, this is Captain Marcus Reed of Earth. I think it's time we talked. You are the one responsible for this chaos, the Admiral said, his mechanical voice filled with rage. I'm responsible for giving people hope, Marcus replied calmly. The chaos is your own creation. You conquered the galaxy through fear, and now that fear is turning against you. We will destroy this world and every living thing on it. No, you won't, because you can't afford to. Every minute you spend here, you're losing ground everywhere else. The rebellion is spreading faster than you can contain it. Admiral Crix knew it was true. His empire was collapsing, and it was all because of this one insignificant planet that had refused to surrender. What do you want? He finally asked. Simple, Marcus replied. Leave this system and never come back. And while you're at it, consider that the age of the Vorth Collective is over. The galaxy doesn't belong to you anymore. The Admiral was silent for a long moment, and slowly his ships began to withdraw from the system. Months later, traders, and explorers from across the galaxy would speak in hushed tones about the silent planet that had become a legend. They told stories of invisible warriors who could appear and disappear at will, of a world that could hide entire civilizations, and of 4 humans who had taught an ancient species how to fight. The Kethmori were no longer silent. They had become a symbol of hope for oppressed peoples everywhere. Their planet had become a meeting place for rebels and freedom. Fighters from dozens of worlds, Marcus stood in the same spot where he had first met Elder Neth, watching ships from many different species arriving and departing. The galaxy was changing, and it had all started here. "Do you regret it?" Elder Neth asked, joining him on the hilltop. "Your people could have left before the fighting began. You could have been safe." Marcus thought about it for a moment. "No," he said finally. "This is what humans do. Fight. For things that matter, even when the odds are impossible, especially when the odds are impossible." And now, Marcus smiled as he watched the busy spaceport below.
Wow.
Now we help others learn to do the same thing. The Vorth might still be out there, but they're not the only power in the galaxy anymore, and they never will be again. The silent planet had indeed become a legend, but more than that, it had become something even more powerful. It had become hope itself, shining like a beacon across the stars for all who still dreamed of freedom.